All right, good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the, I believe, 20th episode of the Dancer DLC for Cultist Simulator. We finished our leveling up. We've got flawless physique, flawless physique, never know for imagination, and silent intensity for our scholarship. That means we've got 5 health, 5 passion, and 5 reason. And we are swelling the ranks of the Wildwood Club, so we're doing our best to get through that as quickly as we can. We just turned Violet, and basically the last few that we've got, Clovette, Rose, Neville, Hope Clifton, Yzabet, and Laidlaw. Again, keeping the hangers on as basically sort of a dumping ground for some influences that we want to get rid of. Now my dream slot's going to be a little crowded for the next little while, so I've got my affliction and a Course of the Heart that's coming up right now. Because I make money with my health, I'm a little more inclined to cure the affliction before dealing with the dread and fascination. But one big factor, of course, is going to be whatever comes up in the passage of time. So we'll see how that all turns out. We've got 33 free seconds, and the advancement to the White Door will be completed by then. But of course, we'll deal with the task at hand, which is to bring more people into the Wildwood Club. So Clovette is happy in a way that brooks no counter-argument to happiness. And we'll use the Barber's Warning. I mean, I suppose as an option, yeah, why not? Let's bring the Fascination in, because that's going to last longer. In fact, if I wanted to be really clever, we just use the Fascination this way. There's no real advantage to doing it one way or the other, but what that does do is that frees up my dream slot. So my own heart pumps more strongly today. It's one of the few times we haven't used supernatural means to cure ourselves. I believe we got that Course of the Heart from working at the Gaiety. So there's no, there is no mystique on the board now. So in this case, we're just waiting out the last little bit of the. Why didn't I read that text? I apologize. We're waiting, just waiting out the last little bit on the Season of Suspicion. And again, because we can use the dread in an induction, in this case, I think I'm just going to get the affliction dealt with right away. So all I need now is time. Did I sense an opportunity? Tonight I could attract attention if I cease to hold back, if I commit myself more fully. I am more than a listen package of flesh and blood. Tonight they'll notice that, and we got another Course of the Heart. Oop. I felt other eyes upon me. Afterwards I received a gift from an admirer, a little too personal for me to feel comfortable, but I can sell it in the second-hand market. And moth sheds its skin. The novice must only shed their clothes and their past. Clovette's determined happiness now borders on the fanatical. And once again, we go to the Wildwood Club. In this case, we'll use Dread. Now, Dread is edge-touched, so that's not something that we're able to use in the... not something that we're able to use for recruitment on its own. Of course, it is appropriate that Rose is an edge follower. Rose is a Slimist, and she recognizes you as someone uncommon. But what we will have to do here is just add the Barber's Warning. Now again, because Dread is an influence, this is going to be consumed by the induction ritual. If you don't want to lose the item, essentially you have to use a tool. So. Oop. Sorry, I should be heading back to work. The stage awaits hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. Now, the other thing I could have done would use the Sunset Rite in a ritual. Now, this would assume that I have some, powerful enough knock and the other components. I'm not really in a state to do that, but that's just another example. It doesn't always have to be recruitment. It is actually possible to use those influences now that I've got the Sunset Rite as well. The virgins maidens of the mirror favor orchids. The behindlings favor the rhododendron. Cut flowers of either nature should not be placed before polished bronze. An appendix contains a rite which might be used to summon some of those entities, although the details of its use are not made clear. So Mantis Glimpse is helpful. That's a higher level of lantern, and more importantly will allow me to do the substantial lantern commission. Snatch of poetry, a single memory of a certain house that all of us visit at least twice in our lives. For one's first visit to the Mansis, this lore is almost essential. And the Rite of the Watchman's Sorrow. This rite recalls the loss of the watchman who walks the house which has no walls. Light goes before him and shadow behind. He must not see you. The instrument of power is used to summon him to take his sacrifice, precious knowledge from the root of your thoughts. The assistant must speak the words that anchor your sanity, so choose someone you trust. So of all of the rituals, I use the Rite of the Watchman's Sorrow the least. The funny thing is I actually have a lot of lore which I tend not to need in a lot of my playthroughs, but it definitely does speak to, again, as someone who really likes Lantern and as someone who well, sorry, it's not really so much as someone who really likes Lantern, but someone who, you know, feels a certain affinity to Lantern, you know, appreciation of knowledge and understanding and all of these things. I kind of feel like, I don't know, lore is one of these things I am the most reluctant to give up. Maybe second most, because followers are also something that I'm reluctant to give up as well. Although I suppose I still put followers in positions of risk in a way that I don't lore. So again, some of the speeds of my playthroughs would be a bit faster if I was willing to use things like the Rite of the Watchman's Sorrow and just be a little more thoughtful about what I'm potentially giving up and what I'm gaining in response. But again, it's just one of the reasons why I think things like the Sunset Rite is so powerful, because I think in this case here, it's because you know that influences are going to go away on their own, whereas everything else in the game stays on the board, and so you don't feel that sense of loss when you use influences as inputs. I don't mean to speak for everyone in this particular case, but I do think it's the same reason why if you play something like, you know, some modern first-person shooters recognize this hoarding tendency, and so grenades are now put on timers rather than being something that you can pick up, because, you know, you'll be on the final boss battle. The game will have in big bold capitals, "This is the final boss," and you'll still be hoarding grenades just on the odd chance you need them for the end credits or something. Anyways, we're not playing Doom, so... A true and complete accounting of the Asclepian mysteries of the Roots of the House. Descriptions of the Asclepian mysteries reproduced by one Riley Gressiff from supposedly a much older text. It's unlikely to be genuine, but it makes reference to the house without walls and its wood right there in the prologue. This is very obviously not an antique text. At the very least, it has been badly mutilated, but it contains substantial intriguing material, especially a persuasive comparison of the many-portaled house without walls to the human body. My own heart pumps more strongly today. Alright, well, we knew this was going to come up eventually, so old unhappy far off things, moth finds light in the dark, and so do I. Now, we're probably going to wind up with two restlessness at roughly the same time, so we may not be able to dance it all away, but again, I am doing recruitment, and so restlessness isn't quite as troublesome, because I have the ability to, you know, bring people into the... Like, not just bring people into the cult, I don't even need to burn some of my hangers-on in this case. So, Rise is a Slimus, but loyal. So, on to Neville. Neville will, Neville won't wait for the restlessness, but... Neville pauses before he speaks and flinches easily. He laughs whenever he thinks you've made a joke. This one is ready. And just as well we got rid of the fascination, I suppose. If hunters found notoriety, they will try to use it to create or upgrade evidence. If they're meticulous, they'll always succeed. If they're erratic, they're more likely to fail, but they can occasionally create evidence even without notoriety. The sick room grows close and stale. Time to get up. So as far as I can tell, we don't have any threats on the table anymore. We used the dread elsewhere. Got 9.8 seconds, so the skin I bear will grow too small, so I must begin to abandon it. I will need to send a part of myself to learn how. Let's see if I can get by. I'll use the passion if I have to. Yep, we can throw the restlessness in. Nice. Oh, but I have moved the... I'm no further along my path of change. In the movements of the secret forms, I must find my lesson. Okay, I think I'm ready to go through the White Door now. In my dreams, I know the path to the White Door through the bounds, but that path is thronged with the dead who pass that way. I will need health to resist their chill. Now I can approach the White Door through the bounds. Now I can press my fingers to it, feel its chill, and watch it swing open. As it opens, my mouth closes, tightens, heals over like a lost deformity. Around and about me is the cobalt light of the mantis. And if I need to dance the restlessness away, I will. I'm actually slightly more inclined to use restlessness in this case. So I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards, I received a gift from an admirer, too gaudy for my tastes, but I can sell it on the second-hand market. So one factor that I want to be considering, and one reason why I want to use restlessness at the gaiety a little bit more often, is that, again, I generate income through my health. Now, again, at 81 funds, I'm fine. I really do not need to be watching my budget for the next little while. But one of the things that I am kind of conscious of is that because I've got 5 health to work with, and I'm going to be giving up a health each time I go through Dream, and I'm going to be going to the White Door a lot because that's going to be how I can get further secret histories that I need. It's also how I can get influence for the different rites that I want to perform. In this case, there's a chance that I'm going to have quite a bit of health on cooldown. Now again, these things take a minute, so there is only so much of it that's going to be used up on the table, but then you have something like a season of sickness, or you have other things that might tie up your health. And so in this particular case, one thing I would prefer to do is just make sure that I'm using things like passion and restlessness so that I'm not using up too much health, that I'm always able to do at the minimum the work and the dream, and then of course anything else that I need health for. Although again, usually those are just to, study to generate vitality, those little details. So in that case, I'm just trying to be a little more careful in terms of the order in which I'm doing things. Moth sheds its skin, the novice must only shed their clothes and their past. Neville pauses before he speaks and flinches easily. He's sensitive to deeper matters. So I think... Well, it's 43 seconds, so honestly, at this point... Let's just get Pope Clifton in. We'll use the restlessness because I can just throw the passion in. So, Wildwood Club. A bellowing and Orthodox Catholic with a mystic streak and an untrimmed beard. Sorry, I've been stumbling over my words last couple of episodes. Okay, so good thing we got rid of the dread. So, right after we got rid of those 2 influences, we had both a Season of Visions and a Season of Despair, so just as well we got rid of them. I don't really think they represented a major danger to us because I think the dread had already kind of been on the path to expiring, but just a little reminder in terms of why I try to deal with that immediately, because it's nice not to have to worry. The less I need to bend my playthrough around the events that come up, and the more I can just make conscious decisions about what I'm trying to do, the happier I am in general. The direction of death is down, the book explains. The Peacock Door has been considered a rent or an abrasion, but in some respects it is more like a mouth, if not a more treasured point of entry. Discussion of the doors include a rite which may conjure creatures through those doors, although key incantations are missing. So right at the map's edge is the other rather nice... it's the other rather nice rite because it's one that uses influence as an input. The Vagabond is the only hour that never enters the mantis. This rite must be performed in the right place, in the right time, and the Vagabond will take that rightness for her own. And we also got another level of heart, which is maybe not so important for our overall understanding because the waking chant is enough to kind of do what we need, but words that walk. The syllables of this formula are compelling. I find myself snapping my fingers to its rhythm. It desires not to cease. And we are on our way to that last reading. We will also read Gartside's Sanskrit Reader. It's kind of the last option that I have, and we didn't read it just because we didn't have any Sanskrit texts to work with. But in this case here, De Bellis Mirorum, an 18th century epic poem by the pseudonymous Solipstos. The poem elliptically describes a war between beasts, weather phenomena, and arcane concepts. It's quite specific about their tactics. This is actually another one, so there's a lot of text that I like, but this is probably out of the Well, Lord Franklin Bancroft Diaries is actually what I'd probably like to read, but for different reasons. But I think if there were to be a text that I'd kind of like to read a little bit more about, it's probably De Bellis Murorum. In fact, I'm going to call it now. Weather Factory is going to break new ground, and they are going to make the first narrative strategy game, De Bellis Murorum, specifically about the, you know, it's going to be a little bit like Age of Mythology. You know, you got the beasts, you got the weather phenomena, you got the arcane concepts. You heard it here first, folks. Moth sheds its skin, the novice must only shed their clothes and their past. Now Clifton improvises new prayers rich with solar metaphors. He still shouts like a solar and drinks like a sailor. So on to Yzabet. Yzabet has always been most comfortable by moonlight. She has excellent night vision. She is often overlooked in daylight. So let's go for Wildwood Club. Yzabet. Barber's Warning. This one is ready. I could also use the Winged Doll. I mean, I could also use the Igdisis Parable for that matter, but happy to keep it at the Barber's Warning. I should take a minute just to see if some of the Moth followers can move up to Tonight I Sense an Opportunity. Tonight I could attract attention if I cease to hold back and commit myself more fully. Tonight they'll notice that. I should take a minute to see if I can get some of my Moth followers a bit higher. That'll kind of tell me how I want to use some of the Moth influences that come to me. But for now, let's visit the... I think I always go... I don't know why, but I usually start with the Lodge of the Sage Knight every time I go to the White Door for the first time. I could not tell you why. I think it's just because I like saying hi to Teresa, but... am I on first name basis? Maybe I should just call her the Gallagher Lady. Anyways, Forgotten Chronicle. A story of a city without a gate, of a queen who was not born, of a war which was not fought. Last night, I visited the Lodge of the Sage Knight. My hostess manifested as an elegant woman with fashionably short hair and dark glasses. No, she admits, I don't need them any more than I need eyes. Allow me my sentimentalities. But I expect you come for knowledge. Here's a story I heard in my Carisham days. You're welcome to it. Only remember me if you come to make the pilgrimage. So normally I'd eat that up for an expedition right away, but I am going to make sure I have at least one of those in reserve. So it's always worth remembering with the White Door. In my dreams I know the path to the White Door through the bounds, but that path is thronged with the dead who pass that way. I'll need health to resist their chill. So one of the ones that I always... And it's... I mean, in this case, I kind of know... I'm at the point now in Cultist Simulator where it's not only that I know the things that I need to do most of the time, but I also know the ones that I tend to forget the most. So when it comes to Ascents in the White Door... This is one of these perfect examples where I am overly familiar with the game, and so if I just take the time to read the slot like I recommend everyone else does, I save myself a lot of trouble. So what I'm specifically talking about here is you're like, okay, well, do I just bring like a level 1 million lantern to go to the next level? Well, it says right here, invest health to pass the White Door or follow desire to the Stag Door, the door of the no. The ascent is slow, winds from nowhere pluck at me. My skin is stained with light. The wood shivers with motion far below. So I very often miss the opportunity to go to the Stag Door, just simply because I keep forgetting to put the desire there. I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards, I received a gift from an admirer. A little too personal for me to feel comfortable, but I can sell it in the second-hand market. So there isn't the same urgency in terms of working at the Gaiety now, so I am going to start working on that substantial lantern text. I probably should have done that a little bit earlier, but it's fine. We can't undo the time that's passed, so this may be useful for a commission. I believe that was for Dr. Adim. I think it was Jannings who wanted the Edge commission. Mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I am sane, if that means anything. Moth sheds its skin, the novice must only shed their clothes and their past. Yzabet sleeps in fits and starts. She rises at dusk to do the things that Yzabet does. And Laidlaw. Laidlaw is a tinkerer and a mechanic with an uncanny knack. This one is ready. My own heart pumps more strongly today, so we don't need the vitality right away, but it's not bad to have. The 2-1 joined and the horn distinguished, consequently, blood. Chiliarch's lesson. This is the bone-deep story of the thousand-men learnt in antiquity, of blood and its exits. To speak it aloud is to hear the sword hiss. Use this right with a corpse and winter power, and the corpse will rise. Now, we do need a very substantial commission on Edge, so this isn't enough. Actually, it's too very substantial. So in this case, we do kind of want to get on it with the expedition so that we can get some new texts. But in the meantime, we will now read Gartside's Sanskrit Reader, a lucid book which outlines a careful path through the thickets of a vast and complex language. The name has been translated as the Refined Language. I'm not quite ready to go on expeditions yet. I don't just want to level up my followers, but I'd like to level them up. Actually, this is one thing that I can be doing. Let's go for moth followers. There's a little bit of a risk doing that, but crowded thoroughfares by day, fog-wrapped labyrinth by night. I'll set my minions to searching for opportunities. It's probably a little late for me to be doing this, to be honest. But it doesn't actually hurt to have some hirelings for these expeditions to start off with. Moth sheds its skin, the novice must only shed their clothes and their past. So Laidlaw has begun to understand the limitations of ingenuity and the power of sacrifice. Okay, so let's take Porter as a guinea pig. In this case, we'll take the Wildwood Club. We will grab Porter. We can now add the Ecdicist Parable. So in this case, this is actually sufficient to bring them up to the next level. Now, it's worth remembering here that Porter has 2 moth that can be applied to their level up, but we also have the Winged Doll, which adds 4. So, my follower will kneel as a novice and rise as an initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. So, Porter applies his razor and his scissors to the great advantage of his friends. Now, admittedly, higher level moth is not the most important thing for me right now, but it's I like using the moth followers as a test case with my existing lore just because it tends to tell me where I need to go. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm still going to send a follower out. The ascent is slow, winds from nowhere pluck at me. My skin is stained with light, the wood shivers with motion far below. What are the words that make sacrifice sweet? Answer the riddle to pass the stag door and be accounted a no. So, in this case, I believe... yeah. I genuinely don't remember which one... maybe... I can't remember if it's Knock or Grail, or neither. In either case, I don't think we have what we need, so we'll keep going through the white door. We'll know it when we see it. I finished the manuscript. So not much else for us to do. Let's just head back to the Gaiety before we lose the job. The stage awaits hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. And Season of Suspicion coming up, so just as well we didn't go too far down the path of expeditions. I'll still probably I'll consider hiring people if I think there's something of value there, but one thing I'm definitely going to want to bring in is a good heart follower. So many words, such little time. So I will keep my reference works close to hand. Okay, so not a whole lot for me to do with the study verb now. One thing I could do if I felt the need is I could, in fact, one thing in particular that would be helpful for me would be to use the study verb with passion, because that generates glimmerings, and you can kind of see glimmerings as like a free boost to any of my moth lore. So for instance, if I was just down to a wood whisperer, I know that I would have 6 available to me for recruitment. Of course, that's all true up until the fact that I have the winged doll. I don't have to sacrifice the tool in order to use it in the induction, so that gets me 4, and in that case the influence suddenly isn't as important. So in this case the study verb's probably going to stay idle unless I feel a particular need to work on one task or another. So the priority in terms of getting some of these expeditions done is a bit higher. And one of the ways that I think I'm going to approach one of the ways I'm going to approach this is I definitely need to make sure I've got the highest level heart follower available to me right away. The next thing that I'm going to do is make sure that I have 2 of each principal leveled up. So, for Grail, that means both Rhaenyra and Saliba need to be boosted. But in the case of Forge, it could be like Laidlaw and Valsine, or any combination of the 2, like Laidlaw or Tristan, for instance. But in this case here, what I want to basically make sure I have are 2 level 5 followers that I can bring in to deal with certain eventualities. And again, I can make life a little bit easier for me too. So for instance, the Forgotten Mithraeum, well, in that case, I'm going to want to make sure that I have Lantern or Knock. Cater and Hero, I'm going to want to make sure that I have Forge. Congregation of St. Felix of Shurin, I believe in that case I'll be able to get by with a sufficiently high Moth follower. Actually, come to think of it, I think Strathcoins also has Watchers, so that would be Moth would be sufficient there as well. So as long as I have a reasonably good idea of the obstacles I'm going to be going up against, I can also I can make sure that I maybe recruit certain followers to get to a certain level faster. So maybe I'll make sure that Neville and Enid are brought up a bit faster, because Knock is useful in a number in a number of contexts, and I really only have the Locksmith stream as far as lore is concerned. Either way, though, not something we're going to worry about too much, because we're definitely not going to be doing expeditions for a while. Now the scissors, and then the knife. Now the wood, and then the bones. Now the flutter of the moon, and the dappling of the soul. He was blood, and so we will be. Porter goes unnoticed until he's ready. So I'm going to take a quick second here. I don't necessarily want to bring Porter up to the highest level. I mean, it's nice if I can, but in this case I think we're quite far off. I think it has to be like 21. Yeah, 21st intensity, so we're 6 off. We're going to be waiting a while, I think. But that's fine. We've got other things that we can do. So as I was mentioning, dealing with reputation is certainly a tricky one. Now, I almost always use Clovette for these, but Clovette is the easiest one for me to find. Actually, I did just find Dorothy and Leo now, but some traditions are worth keeping. So we'll take Clovette, whose determined happiness now borders on the fanatical. Let's bring in the Ecdysis Parable and the Winged Doll. My follower will kneel as a novice and rise as an initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. So Clovette to level 5 heart so that she can clean up our reputation. Enid and Neville to level 5 knock so that we can deal with Forgotten Mithraeum. And Cater and maybe we'll deal with the Forge followers next. Well, that are my fellow Moth people, I suppose. I should have turned in the Lantern Commission as well. That was my bad. Although I suppose I can at least let the Season of Suspicion pass by without generating the Mystique now. No advantage to me bringing in the Restlessness, so let's go to the Orchard of Lights. The Sun in Splendor, the Hour who once ruled the Mansis, was known to walk in the orchard before his terrible division. Sometimes his remnants walk here still. Sometimes I see the chilly radiance of the Meniscate through the trees, or the chillier radiance of the sun in rags. Were they to come upon me, it might be my end, but to see them in the distance is the gift of insight. Okay, so glimmering, again, like I said earlier, these are kind of like little pockets of moth influence, but I just simply have other ways of getting that moth influence. It's not as important to me as it would be in other circumstances. But I still see some value in keeping on going to the Wait Door, so we'll head there again. And you know what? I think I am going to bring this... no, I'm not. I would normally bring in the Bomb Maker, but I think I'm going to need more than 2 minutes to be able to get my... You know, come to think of it, I might actually be able to get away with this, so let's give it a shot. So we're already moving Clovette up to deal with notoriety, so a combination of Laidlaw and a Bomb Maker should be able to carry the day. Adversary is asking searching questions about my activities. They will not find any. Okay. Nothing to do with Explorer for now. Well, actually that's not entirely true. I could send out another follower. Who am I not going to need? I guess Eldridge I'm not really going to need. Tonight I sense an opportunity. Tonight I could attract attention if I cease to hold back, if I commit myself more fully. Tonight they'll notice that. And we don't really need the hulking fellow. We don't have a lot of murderers available to us right now, so we'll just leave that be. I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards, I received a gift from an admirer. A little too personal for me to feel comfortable, but I can sell it in the second-hand market. All right, so I think that is all that we have time for. But generally, we're doing pretty well in terms of our overall position. So we hired the Bomb Maker. That's sort of a signal of confidence that I'm going to be able to do the expedition pretty quickly. So I'm going to leave the Explore verb open after 55 seconds pass by. We will have upgraded Clovette. In fact, we can run the clock just to get that in there. Now the scissors, and then the knife. Now the wood, and then the bones. Now the flutter of the moon, then the dappling of the soul. He was blood, and so we will be. Clovette's optimism is daunting. She wields her joy like a hammer. So essentially, what's going to be happening here is, sorry, I keep saying I'm going to wrap up, but let's get ourselves properly set up. So, my follower will kneel as a novice and rise as an initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. So we have some ideas about what we're up against. So, for instance, Cater and Hero, we've got the worry about the need for forge. So one of the things that I can do, I can send the Bomb Maker to deal with Cater and Hero alongside Laidlaw, so that'll use the Explore verb right away. We've got Clovette to help clean up the reputational damage afterwards, and then of course in the meantime I can level up other followers. I probably will want to bring at least one other Forge follower in case something happens, so if we lose Laidlaw, we're going to need to bring the Forge back up to 10. So something, someone like Valsine or Tristan will help us out there. I do want to bring Enid and Neville up to the next level as quickly as I can. But basically, as these expeditions are getting done, I'll be able to level up I'll be able to bring more people into the cult, and generally try to be a little more careful in terms of who I'm bringing in. So we've got Yzabet. We want to add Porter and Sylvia as soon as we can, because they'll be able to help us out with Strathcoins and the Congregation of St. Felix of Shurin. And I believe St. Agnes Hospital might actually need heart followers, so maybe I want to level those up too. But again, I'm in a position now where I'm going to be able to do more expeditions and minimize the side effects based on the order in which I bring people up to believers. Not believers. Bring them up to. Sylvia's still an acquaintance. What on earth was I thinking? But yeah, the sooner I bring people up to disciples. But either way, that will all be happening next week. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, maybe please consider doing so. You can do that just below the video, and if you hit the bell beside it, you can get notifications for when the next episodes come up. And of course, if you did enjoy this video, please consider giving it a like. And I do enjoy seeing your comments, whether it's just a quick hello, or saying that you liked it, or maybe letting me know what DLC you've wound up playing. Any comment goes, and the reason I say that is, number one, it does help the videos get noticed, but number two, I've been delighted at the number of people that I get to see through this, and not just in terms of comments, but I've noticed some of you have stopped by on the Twitch channel. Some of you used to stop by the Twitch channel and decided to go somewhere else, or the hours didn't work for you. And of course, some of you I also get a chance to see on the Steam streams. So just having the chance to be able to see familiar names come up and say hello, it's something that definitely gives me some energy to keep going, in addition to satisfying the YouTube algorithm, which of course is the most important thing in the world and clearly the reason why we want to do any of that. But as we know from Cultist Simulator, it is nice to have familiar faces when going on an otherwise lonely road. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I will see you Monday with the next set of episodes. Take care.